Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Quinn, Deputy Director at the Delaware Community Reinvestment Action Council, where we are proud to serve as Delaware's low-income tax clinic. And today we are thrilled to have Wendy Figueroa, the local taxpayer advocate here in Delaware, to present about pre-filing tax season tips. And she's also going to talk about scams and other really important information to keep in mind this tax season. Thanks so much, Wendy.
Thank you for the invitation, Jacqueline. Very excited to be here today to talk about this important topic because we know that everybody's so eager to file their taxes and comply with the law and get their refunds. So we wanted to, we have this campaign because we want every year to make sure that we don't see people having to struggle to get their money because for serious years, sometimes people get errors and things like that that prevent them from getting the refund right away. And then sometimes they end up having to come to taxpayer advocate to get those issues resolved. And with that in mind, I wanted to start with one of the most important things that we have to do is finding tax return preparation help and also choosing the right people to prepare our taxes. And we wanted to give you some resources that are available that are free for taxpayers to qualify. So we have the IRS Volunteer Income Tax Assistant, VITA, and also we have the tax counseling for the elderly programs that both offers free tax help for people that qualify. And this year for 2026, the VITA is available for those that generally make 69,000 or less, persons with disabilities, and limited English speaking taxpayers. And the tax counseling for the elderly is particular for those 60 years of age and older. And they specialize in questions related to pensions, retirement issues that affect, unique to seniors. On this slide, we have some links available in the irs.gov. We have a section called What to Bring, and it would explain what kind of information you have to have in order to come to the office and get the taxes prepared. We also have a VITA or a TCE locator tool, which will help taxpayers find the nearest site that they can go to. And if you are not able, sometimes looking at the search and, and the links, sometimes we don't have the right place to go. We still could go to irs.gov and type VITA or tax counseling for the elderly, TCE, or utilize the publication 3676-B. And in addition to that, we have also the Free File program, which is a public-private partnership between the IRS and many tax return preparation and filing software industry companies. And they provide online tax return preparation and filing for free. There are two ways of doing it. We have the guided tax return preparation, and this is partners that deliver this service at no cost to qualifying taxpayers whose ADI or adjusted gross income is 89,000 or less to qualify for that. And in addition to that, if your income is greater than 89,000, then they have the free file fillable forms. And these are electronic federal tax forms equivalent to paper form 1040, but you have to have a little bit of knowledge in filing your own taxes, utilizing forms, instructions, and publications. And the slide, we wanted also to provide the directory of federal tax returns prepared with credential and select qualification. And this is available because if you cannot use the free ones, you always can do your own search, right, online. But the IRS does have a list of preparers that are have qualifications and credentials, and they are listed also with the type of service that they provide. So you can look specific to your needs if you're a self-employed person, or if you have to complete certain schedules that are a little more advanced. Also, you can look in that directory to find who will be qualified to do those. And in addition to that, we have some resources also on Taxpayer Advocate Service. We have a link to filing returns. We have also something about choosing a tax return preparer, which will provide you some tips and different things that you have to be aware when you are ready to file your tax return. And one of the reasons that we have this is because most of the tax preparers provide honest and high quality service, but some of them could also cause harm through fraud, identity theft, and other scams. So you wanted to make sure that you're looking for somebody that asks questions. When you bring your tax records, most good tax return preparers, they will ask you for records. If you're claiming expenses, they want to see receipts. They want to see your W-2. So never hire a preparer who e-files a tax return using your pay stub instead of your W-2, because this is also against IRS e-file rules. So we wanted to kind of like tell you what to look, what are red flags. So in this ones that we call ghost tax return preparer are those that file a tax return and they don't sign the return. They don't want to put any identification on the tax return. So that's why we call it ghost tax return preparers. For example, some of them will not include the IRS prepared tax identification number or PTIN, and that is required by law. So if you want to look at warning signs for, somebody that could potentially be one of those ghost tax return preparers, is those that have some shady fees. Sometimes they ask you for just cash, or they might charge a fee based on the amount of the refund. Some of them will put false income and overstated withholding on the tax returns. So you wanted to be aware of that. And one of the things that is also very important is about using the wrong bank account. Some of them will ask you to utilize their bank account instead of your own bank account. So you wanted to make sure that you look for that, because you don't want to have issues with losing the refund that you're expecting. And with that, social media can connect a lot of people and information. And unfortunately, sometimes people provide bad advice that can lure good taxpayers into trouble. So we wanted to warn you about that. The IRS wants you to be aware that there are growing concerns in 2025, and they they encourage you to go to their website, to taxpayer advocate website, or social media channels that are legitimate and official for the IRS. You can also use tax professionals or other reputable sources. So this is very important, because we hear a lot of things and not always is things that are correct for you. And we also have some information that a lot of people, we see a lot of cases where the returns have been held by the IRS for a long, long time. And this is regarding one of these scams about overstated withholding. So we see a lot of variations, but most of them concerning overstated withholding on forms W-2, W-2G for government payments, Form 1099-R, 1099-NAC, 1099-DIV, and 1099-OID. Sometimes it could be 1099-B or anything with scheduled case, etc. So you wanted to be truthful, because there are consequences on filing returns with incorrect credits. And sometimes if you file a tax return, you will be subject to fraudulent filer penalty, which could be up to like $5,000. So that's why it's so very important to be, looking into the information, making sure that you're not doing something that potentially could be, you could be audited. And again, and there are some consequences also that could potentially be some criminal penalties as well. So you wanted to be aware of that. Another scam that is circulating online is is about the W-2 scheme. So what they do, this scam artist suggests people to make up large income and withholding figures, as well as the employer where it's coming from. So not only did they file incorrect W-2s, but they also use incorrect information about the employer or the payer, all that, in hopes to get a substantial refund. And sometimes as much as five figures. So it's a large amount. So you want to be aware of people that are suggesting that you do that. Do not. Again, like I mentioned already, there are consequences. And we also have seen some issues with the Form 8944. And although this is a legitimate IRS tax form, it is only intended for tax return preparers who are requesting a waiver so that they can file their returns on paper instead of electronically. And it is not a form that average taxpayers can use. So be aware of that. And so we're also encouraging, taxpayers to utilize the e-file because it's faster, and most of the time returns are pretty accurate. Otherwise, they are rejected. But one of the things to watch out when you do that is some software that import prior year data automatically, because that could duplicate your income and your withholding. And if that happens, you will be required to file an amended return. And that's also going to delay your refund. And this year for direct deposit, there's an executive order 14247 modernizing payments to and from the American Express account that it was signed on March 25th, 2025. The U.S. Department of Treasury, in coordination with the IRS and other federal agency, is advancing the transition to fully electronic federal payments. So this policy shift to phase out paper refund checks. So we wanted to be you to be aware of these changes because it is required. And if you don't have a bank account on your tax return, you are going to be subject to delays because the IRS is going to hold your refund unless you meet some of the exceptions. So I suggest that you go into irs.gov, look a little bit more about this direct deposit, and you wanted to make sure that you don't use anybody else's account. This is one of the most important things when we come to this, because sometimes the refund can be deposited in a different bank account. It could be rejected, which will delay the process, or you could potentially face losing that refund check. So do not utilize bank accounts that are not in your name. But I suggest that you also go online again to look for that, because there might be some apps that you might be able to use. Be careful with those, but you can go online and get more information about that. And we also have direct pay, and it is free. You don't have to be charged for any fees because it is going to be deducted straight from your bank account, whether it's a checking account or a savings account. So I would recommend also that you go to irs.gov and learn more about that. And you could search with direct pay. You can utilize pay tax also in the search, and it will bring you to the right information. And always use, like I mentioned before, your information. Do not use your pay stub. You want to make sure that you have your income statements, whether it's a 1099, a Form W-2, 1099K, Schedule K-1, etc. If for any reason your information is not correct, you wanted to contact the payer right away and get a corrected form. Because we're going to talk about what happened, what potential delays you could have in that space. So make sure, again, do not use the pay stub. And if you, for some reason, did not receive your forms, employers have until January 31st to mail them. So you should have them already. But if you don't have it, contact your payer, or you can contact the IRS. You can contact the IRS 1-800-829-1049. They're available Monday to Friday from 7 to 7, and they will be able to send you copy of the, a transcript for the W-2. And the reason why it is so important to be very accurate in regards to the information that you're reporting is because the IRS had this IRS integrity and verification operations. And this unit, what they do is every tax return that is including income and withholding is matched against the IRS records. And if the information is not accurate, it's not right, it's not the same, they will be subject to delay, and there will be an IRS that will have to wait for an IRS employee to manually verify each one of these returns that are held because of that. One of the things that in Taxpayer Advocate we see a lot is, for example, you report decimal errors, that you report, for example, your federal withholding is $30, but instead you reported $300 of federal income tax. That's going to delay the process. Another thing that I see a lot in common taxpayers that come is that they utilize their own line of income. Like if they have pension, they put that on the wages line or things like that, that make sure that you utilize the right lines according to the income that you're reporting. Another thing is that sometimes they combine W-2s when they're using it. Instead of typing each one individually, they might put all the wages, all the withholding, and that creates confusion when it comes to the income. And that could also cause your return to be delayed. And what you can do if you want to confirm the information, sometimes you might have multiple employees throughout the year, or maybe you have like a short time working with an employer, and you think that you're not going to get a W-2, and somehow you move or something like that, and you're not really sure. You wanted to make sure that we wanted you to know that you can create an online account and you can verify your tax records, with what you have, and you can get transcript of W-2s, W-2G, 1099s, etc. In order to do that, you will have to create an account. But first, you're going to have to create an account with ID.me. And this is a system that is going to help authenticate. So you're going to have to, a lot of other government agencies also, if you wanted to create online accounts, are utilizing the ID.me. So it's most of you potentially be familiar with that, but for doing it with the IRS, once you create the ID.me account, you will be able to access IRS online account, which it shows your account information, payment history, your tax records, and you can get online transcript, which it will be copies of past tax returns and also your wage and income transcripts. You can create online payment agreements or apply for that online. You can get identity protection PIN, IPPIN, in case that you think that it could potentially have some identity theft, or if you just wanted to protect yourself, you can create an account with that, an IPPIN. And for tax professionals, also, you will be able to create an account, a tax pro account, to manage client authorizations. So you will have to be 18 years or older. You will need to have identity, state or federal identifications, and you will be required to take a video or a selfie. Therefore, that means that you're going to have available a current driver license, the identification, passport, or a passport card, internet access to make a camera to do a video, whether it's for phone, tablet, or desktop, and a phone number, because they're going to also verify other information other than what you have in the IRS records. So once you are able to create your account, you'll be able to, your ID.me account, you'll be able to create the IRS accounts. But one thing that I wanted to mention here, because again, it's so important that you're aware that there's scammers offering to set up online accounts. So be mindful that you don't want to give your personal information. They will be asking you for photo ID. They will be asking you for your social security number or your individual taxpayer identification number or ITIN. So, and they will sell that information to other criminals. So protect yourself. Do not fall for these type of scams. And then we have, we wanted to make sure that you double check your information. You wanted to look at your social security numbers, make sure that they're correct, your individual taxpayer identification number, or whether you have adoption taxpayer identification number, date of birth, addresses, and your bank account. Make sure that everything matches. And if you have prior identity theft, you wanted to make sure that you're using also your regular and IPPIN number so that you don't have any problems. And if you don't have a social security number, you wanted to have that social security number or requested it because you have to have that by the time that you file your tax return with the IRS. We want to check all credits and deductions for which you may be eligible. And this is very important because sometimes we know that we had claimed a credit last year, so I'm going to use that credit again. You want to make sure that you look at the eligibility requirement because these items can change yearly, and the formula used to calculate them also could be, sometimes complex. And so, but the good thing is that we have a lot of different tools online available that you can use and look at what kind of deductions, and they do math in some of them, and I would recommend that you look irs.gov for some of them before you file your tax return. And this year, we have the one big, beautiful bill provisions that have a lot of important changes this tax season. I'm not going to go over all of them, but I would encourage you to go into the irs.gov and look for more information. I'm just going to talk briefly of some of them. So we have the deduction for seniors. And individuals who are 65 years and older may claim an additional deduction of $6,000. This new deduction is in addition to the current additional standard deduction that we have in the past for seniors under existing laws. So we also have no tax on tips. Employees and self-employed individuals may deduct qualified tips received in occupations listed by the IRS as customary and regularly receiving tips on or before December 31st, 2024, and that are reported on Form W-2, Form 1099, or other specified statement furnished to the individual or reported directly to the individual on Form 4137. Qualified tips are voluntary, cash, and or charge tips received from customers or through tip sharing. There's a maximum amount of deduction for that, which is $25,000 for self-employed. Deduction may not exceed the individual's net income. Deduction phases out for taxpayers with modified adjusted gross income over $155,000 or $300,000 for filing joint filers. We also have no tax on tip. No tax on overtime. Effective for 2025 through 2028, individuals who receive qualified overtime compensation may deduct the pay that exceed the regular rate of pay, such as the half portion of the time and a half compensation. Maximum annual deduction is $12,500 or $25,000 for joint filers. And then again, the deduction phases out for taxpayer with modified adjusted gross income over $150,000 or $300,000 for joint filers. And we also have the car loan interest deduction. Individuals may deduct interest paid on a loan used to purchase a qualified vehicle, provided the vehicle is purchased for personal use and meets other eligibility criteria. Lease payments do not qualify, and the maximum annual deduction is $10,000. Again, the deduction phases out for taxpayer with modified adjusted gross income over $100,000 or 200,000 for joint filers. And last but not least, we're going to touch a little bit on the energy, the expiration of the credits for clean energy vehicles and energy efficient home improvements. The credit will not be allowed for any vehicle acquired after September 30th of 2025. And then the home improvement, it have to be for expenses made after December 31st. Give me 1 second. So the credit will not be allowed for any property placed in service or expenses made after December 31st, 2025. So again, go into the website, read a little more because there's a lot of information available. All right, so we have now, we have the family related credits. We're gonna touch a little bit on one of the credits, but I wanted to make also aware that you can go into the irs.gov and look for credits and deductions for individual, and you will be able to find more information about all the credits available. But we wanted to also let you know that we do have the interactive tax assistant tool, online tools that will help you determine if you are eligible for any of those, particularly for the earned income tax credit. And I wanted to touch bases on that one. The earned income tax credit, let's do like a quick refresher on those because this is one of the credits that a lot of taxpayers claim. And there's a lot of issues that happen with it, and there are sometimes a lot of issues that end up in audit, and we wanted to make sure that you are following the guidelines to claim this credit correctly. And all right, so we wanted to look at the tool. We have the EITC assistant tool, and it's going to ask you some questions to determine eligibility. So I will encourage you to use it. But for this credit, you must have Social Security number for you and your dependents, your spouse, before the due date of the returns, including any extensions. The filing status for this, to claim this credit, you must be married filing joint, head of household, qualified widower or single. So if you are filing your tax return as a married filing separately, you will not be able to claim this credit. And you must be a U.S. citizen or resident alien all year, and you cannot file Form 2555 or 2555 EC to report for an earned income and claim this credit. And you must meet rules for whether you have a qualifying child or if you don't have a qualifying child. And okay, so in this slide we have some additional information about the credit. You must have proof of earned income. You have investment income of 11,000 or less. And again, you must have the Social Security number, meet the adjusted gross income for your filing status, and you must be a U.S. citizen or resident alien. On this slide, we have some of the tools. The EITC Assistant and Taxpayer Advocate Service also have some page with Get Help that will give you a lot of information about the earned income tax credit. And the IRS.gov also have multiple pages on EITC, so you wanted to make sure that you look at all of them and find whether you are eligible or not. Because I mentioned some consequences, and I also mentioned potential audits. If that happened, your refund, the portion of the earned income tax credit or the EITC will be delayed, and you will be subject to provide proof of residency and other things in regards to the qualifying children. And if you're denied what's going to happen is that you're going to have to pay if your refund was issued and you later on audited, you're going to have to pay the earned income tax credit plus penalty and interest. And if it's not, if we still have the portion of the EITC, then you're going to have to provide evidence and documentation, and that portion of the refund will not be available until the process is concluded on the audit. If the IRS sometimes, after you're audited, you may need to file a Form 8862, information to claim refundable credits after disallowance, with your tax return of subsequent years if you were audited. If the error after they complete the audit and they find out that the error is because of reckless or intentional disregard, the IRS could potentially ban you for 2 years of claiming this credit. And if the error is because of fraud, the IRS will ban you to claim this credit for the next 10 years. So that's why it's so important that you know that you follow the requirements and utilize this to make sure that you are claiming the credit and not have any problems with it later on. And so some of the issues that we see all the time, sometimes it's simple stuff. So I encourage you also to go online. There's a list of all the different common errors that we see in regards to the EITC. But one of them is that people are claiming a child who does not meet the residency or the relationship requirements. So this is like the biggest one that we see. Make sure that you're claiming the child live with you more than half a year and it meet all the requirements. Another one is sometimes people are claiming the income or the expenses incorrectly, especially those that are self-employed or they have a business and they're filing their tax returns income using the Schedule C. And another one is that a lot of people that are filing as single or head of household when they're actually married. So married individuals may be eligible to file as head of household in certain circumstances, but you wanted to make sure that if you do not meet those requirements for the head of household, that you are filing jointly. And because if you file married filing separate, then you will not be, like I mentioned, that's one of the filing status that you cannot use in order to claim this credit. And last but not least, you wanted to make sure the name and social security numbers match the IRS and the Social Security Administration records. So when you file your taxes, if you have changed your name for any reason due to marriage or any other circumstances, you wanted to make sure that you're utilizing the name that matches your card and the Social Security Administration records. And then those are kind of like the most common errors that we see when it comes to the EITC. But we have seen other credits that are concern every year because a lot of people are claiming it incorrectly. And one of those is the false fuel tax credit. So make sure this is also claimed in the Form 4136 credit for federal tax paid on fuels. And a lot of taxpayers believe that they're entitled to this because of a lot of social media scams and things like that. So make sure that you do file, the requirements because this is meant for off-highway business and farming use, and as such, is not available for most taxpayers. So a lot of people are claiming it incorrectly. We also have a lot of taxpayers claiming some COVID-19 pandemic credits, and especially the credit for sick leave and family leave. A lot of taxpayers are claiming this in Form 7202, and this is creating a lot of returns that have been withheld because they're subject to review. And again, remember, like I said, sometimes if the IRS believes that you are filing a return and claiming a credit incorrectly, you could potentially be audited or subject to a frivolous filer penalty of $5,000. So if you do know that you claim a credit that you are not entitled to, I would suggest that you file an amended return and fix that problem before even the IRS addresses it. We also have some bogus self-employment tax credit that people are trying to claim. And so make sure that you look at the requirements and utilize good tax preparers. We have some other credits and deductions, and like I said, I'm not going to go over everything, but utilize the link or type in the irs.gov's credits and deductions for individuals so that you can make aware of all the different requirements that and different deductions that we have and whether you could qualify for one of them. All right, and then attach all required forms and schedules before you submit your return. A lot of the time we see that there are different forms that people are not attaching to the tax returns. For example, certain government payments for 1099G. Sometimes it could be the 1099-ins for interest, paid on refunds. If you have insurance through the marketplace, you wanted to make sure that you attach the form 8962. That's a big one that causes a lot of delays all the time. And then make sure that if you are filing in paper, that you attach any forms that have federal income tax withheld to your return so that you don't have any problems. Because sometimes some of the forms are not received by the IRS right away. Sometimes when the returns are filed, the forms might not be yet on the system. So you wanted to attach anything that have federal income tax withheld. Another good practice is that before you file your tax return, look at each of the lines that have entries and look at what the actual form says. Sometimes it's going to tell you attach form, and it will tell you exactly what schedules that you have to attach to your tax return before you submit it. And last but not least, the most important thing, if you're filing in paper, sign your tax return, because a lot of the times returns are sent to the IRS and they're not signed. And if you're married filing jointly, you wanted to have both signatures, the primary and the secondary, before you mail your tax return. And talking about mailing your tax returns, so that's another thing that is very important. If you cannot file in paper, electronically, and you do have to file in paper, one of the most important thing is to double check always where are you going to be sending that return. There are year after year, the information about where to file could change. There are different addresses if you're expecting a refund versus if you're mailing a payment attached with your tax return. So you wanted to make sure that you look at that. And taxpayer or tax professionals can use certain private delivery service and designated by the IRS to meet the timely mailing as timely filing or paying rule for tax returns and payments. So just make sure that you look at what kind of form are you sending and where are you going to do it every year. And I didn't want to end the presentation without giving you also some kind of other information. After you file, what happened if you improperly claim a credit or a deduction? We talked before about filing an amended return, and this is very important because the IRS has different units that conduct, in addition to the IRS integrity verification operations. They also have areas that verify that the information is accurate. So if, for example, if the income is underreported or if the income is overreported and there's no information, you can potentially end up with an audit. So you wanted to, before that happened, you file your amended return because you wanted to avoid having to pay additional interest and penalties or having any problems with fraudulent, for the IRS determining that it could potentially you're intending to evade tax and get some different penalties, accuracy related penalties, fraudulent penalties, etc. So you wanted to make sure that you do file an amended return. But for example, there might be situations that you claim credits that you were not entitled to because of fraudulent advice. And in that situation, you wanted to file a Form 3949A information referral. If you receive it, you probably will have to pay it back. But if you do get in that situation, you can file this form and report it. And in the case that something happened and you are not aware of, there was a credit that was received that you were like, some people receive tax returns, and after they get the copy of the return, the IRS receive a different return. And in those instances, you wanted to also do a complaint. Sometimes the refund is diverted to a different account. So you wanted to file return prepare complaint, and you can also have the form 157 or 14157A, and that one is tax return prepare or fraud or misconduct affidavit, and you can report the prepare. And there's very two distinctions between having this situation and having file an amended return. When you claim a credit and you are aware that the credit was there and is incorrect, you will file an amended return. But if you're not aware, you will not file an amended return. You will file a correct original return. There's two different things, and you want to make sure that you do file your accurate original return and then attach those forms with your return. And we also have some other situations for that could potentially harm you, and you wanted to get some more information, and that would be in regards to identity theft. That's separate from prepared misconduct, or you wanted to make sure that you have some information of what you could do. And there are some steps. Stop interacting with the identity thieves. That's immediately. Don't give them money or personal or financial information. Don't click links, open attachment, or go to any website with odd addresses. If you did, run some antivirus software. Update your online account password, make it complex, unique. Those are things that you can do to protect yourself from anybody going into your online account. Follow IRS instructions in any letter, notice, or information that you receive. Report identity theft, and you can report identity theft by utilizing the Form 14039 Identity Theft Affidavit. And follow recovery steps. If you go to identitytheft.gov, there's going to tell you all the different steps that you have to take. Get an identity theft protection PIN or the IP PIN to protect yourself, and keep records of letters, phone calls, and emails. File returns and pay your tax as usual. Even if you have been a victim of identity theft, you don't want to incur in any late penalties and things like that. So file your return like you normally do, and then put your affidavit, and the IRS will be able to help you resolve the prior year without your current year could potentially be affected, but at least it's filed on time, and the IRS will be able to help you recoup any refunds or anything that have been potentially impacted by the identity theft. And then check your state tax NGC for other steps if there's, how to protect yourself with other government agencies, because the procedures some might be similar, but some will be different for each agency. And then if you try to resolve your problems with the IRS, whatever that will be, including some of the things that I mentioned, but if you provided the information, if you try to get in touch with the IRS and you're not able to do so, just wanted to remind you that we're here to help you. We're here to help after you file your taxes. We don't have tax return preparation services, but we can help you after to resolve any issues And we also have a tool online that you can use if you want to verify if the problem is something that we can help you with. You can go to tax website and utilize our tool, Can Tax Help Me with My Tax Issue? And it's going to ask you a few questions, and then it will determine and tell you a link on where is the nearest office, especially if, there's a list by state, and that will include the state of Delaware. And last but not least, I wanted also to mention some of the information that I have available, that we have available for you, social media channels, the roadmap, which is a great resource. I will encourage you to go and look at it. And we also have some information concerning tax professional and how to find us on social media. And spread the word, tell your friends, family, or anyone who might need help with an IRS federal tax issue to go to our website, just check it out if they qualify. And also those that are experiencing financial hardship, please contact us if you need some assistance with your refund, or any other collection matters and things like that. So that is all the information that I have. Thank you all for attending today, and thank you, Jacqueline, for inviting us. I'll get it back to you.
Thank you, Wendy. This presentation has been full of helpful information, and I know that taxpayers will be able to watch it and reach out and visit all of the resources when they have questions. So thank you for sharing, and we look forward to the next session we'll do in the future.
Thank you.